So you are here for Jason Antin's clinic on why you should cross-train as a mountain athlete. As a lifelong athlete with a diverse background in sports, training, and the outdoors, Jason will share his philosophy on cross-training for mountain sports. Jason enjoys moving quickly in the mountains over a variety of mediums, utilizing a variety of skills. During this clinic, Jason will discuss reasons why he values cross-training in preparation for some of his most memorable outdoor achievements, and how you can integrate his strategy into your own goal-oriented training. So my name is Shannon O'Grady, and I'm the COO of Gnarly Nutrition. I'm going to give a short intro to Gnarly and to some cool things that we've been doing this month if you haven't been able to attend some of the clinics, and also talk about a new product that we just launched. And then I will be quiet and fade into the background and let Jason take over and really present what you're here to learn about. So for those of you that don't know, Gnarly Nutrition produces clean, effective, and science-backed products for athletes. All of our products are NSF certified, and we have a selection of products that are NSF for sport certified. So we really value both the cleanliness of our ingredients, the efficacy of science, and we try to bring those together in a product that tastes great. Starting in November, we began this campaign called Longevity in Sport. That's all about ways that we can keep doing what we love, whether it's how to recover from injury faster, nutrition to help you, progress in your sport, or strategies like cross-training to help you do what you want to do, maybe a little bit more efficiently. So we're nearing the end of it, but we still have a lot of great clinics to go. So if you haven't checked out the full lineup, you should, and sign up for as many clinics as you'd like. If you're unable to make a clinic within 24 hours, we take a little bit more time on the weekend, but within 24 hours, we email you a recording of the clinic so you can watch it as much as you'd like. During this time, we've also launched a new product, Gnarly Collagen Pro. Gnarly Collagen Pro is really about increasing collagen synthesis, something that we see degrade over time, and especially for athletes that are active and put a lot of stress on their joints, might lead to injury. So supplementing with collagen, science supports that it can help reduce the risk of injury and increase longevity in sport, and potentially also help someone recover fast from an injury in a musculoskeletal tissue like a tendon or a ligament. So in the recording that you get in the email with the recording that you get from this clinic, you'll also get a coupon towards purchase of Gnarly Collagen Pro if you'd like to give it a try. One last thing that I want you to be aware of is we have a giveaway going out right now. I think there's maybe 7 or 8 days left to sign up. Lots of different brands, all kind of play a role in longevity, things like Add a Day, that creates a lot of great kind of therapeutic tools. Brands like Joshua Tree for skin repair, Building Active also for skin repair. So check that out, sign up for that if you're interested. At the end of this clinic, you're going to get a survey to give feedback to Jason on the clinic. And I think it's helpful for all presenters to know what you loved about it and what you learned. So if you have a minute, take the time to fill that out. And then also, if you'll, tag Gnarly Nutrition and Jason and share something on social media about something you learned from this clinic or how much you enjoyed it, that's always great as well. All right, so I will stop talking. I'm going to introduce Jason. Jason Antin is a native of New England who now calls Colorado home, focuses all of his time striving to achieve the ultimate work-life balance. Professionally, Jason wears a variety of hats, all focused on helping others achieve their goals in the outdoors. Jason works as a professional climbing guide for Alpenglow mountain guides and the Colorado Mountain School, and as a strength and conditioning coach at the Alpine Training Center in Boulder, Colorado, where he prepares his athletes for the physical and mental rigors of the mountains. Additionally, Jason enjoys creative storytelling of weekend adventure through the Beat Monday project. Some of Jason's most memorable mountain exploits include summiting Denali twice in a week, once via single push of the Cassin Ridge, climbing the nose in a day during his first time on El Cap, or combining endurance and alpine skills to create incredible adventures like I Might Murder This or Azaba Rodeo or the Rainier Infinity Loop. Off the clock, Jason shares his home in Golden, Colorado with his wife, Jenny, and two little girls, Avery and Andorra. He enjoys moving quickly in the mountains over all mediums that Mother Nature shares with us, whether that be trails, rock, ice, or snow. All right, Jason, if you have any issues, I'll be in the background. You just won't see me or hear me. So just let me know if I can help.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the very nice intro. Happy Tuesday, everybody. It's a beautiful day here in my home in Golden, Colorado. I hope it's just as beautiful where you are. Thanks for carving out an hour of your day to hang out with me and talk about cross training. Just as Shannon mentioned, I'm a professional mountain guide and a mountain performance coach. I've been doing those two things for quite a long time now, and I really enjoy helping people get out in the mountains from a variety of angles, whether it be training them physically or mentally for the outdoors, actually guiding them on an objective, or helping tell stories through my own personal adventures that will hopefully inspire you all to get outside and have some fun. Well, let's talk about cross training today. This is a great fit for me. Why? Because essentially I've been cross training my whole life. As much as I'd like to say I'm good at this sport or good at that sport, I'm pretty much just mediocre at a lot of different things. And by design, I end up just cross training for a bunch of different outings. So when my good friends over at Gnarly Nutrition asked me to talk about cross training, it was the natural fit. So what I want to do tonight is spend a few minutes just talking about my own personal philosophy about cross training. I want to talk about ways that I've integrated different sorts of exercises and activities into my life that I think aid in my own personal goals. And then I'd love to share with you a few ways I think you might be able to take these lessons learned and apply it to what you're doing. And most importantly, as much as I like talking to my computer, we've all been doing this since March, and I'd really love a chance to connect with you. So please drop a question in the comments or in the chat box or in the Q&A, and I'd be really excited to answer anything you can throw my way. As it pertains to cross training, the topic is pretty broad. Personally, I think I have it pretty easy. So I grew up, let me back up a little bit. I'm categorized as a mountain athlete these days. I'm a climber, I'm a skier, I'm a runner, but I have it easy because I grew up lifting weights. So for me, building strength and increasing cardiovascular abilities and strength were something I've been doing since I was very young. So I didn't have to go backwards and then implement it into my life after the fact. I was already doing a lot of different things that I think gave me a phenomenal foundation gave me a lot of the benefits up front for what I believe cross training can do for you. So let's talk about exactly what is cross training. Okay, it's again a pretty broad subject. You do a quick Google search, you're going to find 1,000 articles about what exactly cross training is, and it's broad. But the way I see it, cross training is any activity that supports the primary performance goal through improved cardiovascular ability, increased mobility, muscular strength, or expedited recovery. In short, it's any sort of activity that's going to make you perform better in the long run. So the biggies, let's dive in here. So physiological benefits of cross training. There's a lot of buzzwords in this list. One of the biggest ones you're going to see is durability. What is durability? The example that gets often thrown around is the sport of running. And running, because it's very unilateral, it's very one directional for most folks, there's an opportunity for a lot of problems to arise, like overtraining, injuries, imbalances, all those great things. And we're going to talk about them. But as it pertains to durability, when you cross train, when you implement different activities that are going to train your body in different ways that will complement your sport or your objective, you're giving yourself a chance to be less prone to injury and less prone to overuse setbacks. So durability is a massive physiological part of cross training. You're going to get increased aerobic capacity when you cross train because you are training your muscle fibers in a different way to be more efficient. And that's the bottom line. Your muscle's job is to be as efficient as possible, utilize oxygen to the best of their ability. And you're going to achieve that by training your muscle fibers to respond in different ways than you might normally be using them through your primary sport or activity. Imbalances are a big one. I spend a lot of time climbing, and you'll find out there with a lot of folks that are constantly doing pulling motions or pulling exercises, you're going to see some significant imbalances with regards to pulling versus pushing muscles. So a big component of cross training, one of the biggest ones, in my opinion, is the ability to balance out your body. In other words, you're going to be correcting these imbalances by making the weaker parts of your body a little bit stronger during a variety of days of the week, where you can focus on other things that are not your primary sport and not your primary plane of muscle engagement activity. One I mentioned already, injury reduction and prevention. Injuries are a big part of any sport, whether you're a runner or a climber or a skier. Doesn't matter what it is, you're prone to injury from the get-go, and it's just part of life as an athlete. But when you spend time cross-training, you're going to significantly reduce your chance of encountering some of these overuse injuries. Additionally, when you get tired, when you get fatigued out there, you can let your guard down, and you may have to rely on a muscle group that is not the primary muscle group needed in your sport. And therefore, by cross-training, you're preparing yourself to handle the off-axis load that you might encounter during any time you're out there on an objective or out there training or out there performing. I mentioned this previously as well, but the concept of unilateral versus lateral, and this is the biggie. Like I said, type in cross training into the Google search bar, and you're going to find 1,000 articles, and 99.9% of them are going to be about running. Very linear sport, moving in one straight direction and not being able to move laterally or side to side. Cross training is going to prepare you to handle that off-axis load, that off-axis movement, that lateral ability to move your body, to be agile. So a massive piece of the physiological cross training puzzle is training your body to move in a variety of different planes. This concept is pretty dense, and we can go down a variety of different roads here as it pertains to how those planes of your body respond, but I'll keep it broad. You're training your body in one way. Cross training will allow you to be prepared to move in a variety of ways and move your body in a variety of methods. Body composition. Body composition is another one where you may want to alter what your body actually looks like and what your strength to weight ratio is, your weight, how your body's distributed. You can achieve that through cross training to tailor your body to potentially perform better at your goal, sport, or objective. The obvious ones here: muscular strength and endurance. So by embarking on a variety of different activities that are not your primary sport, you're going to contribute to both muscular strength and muscular endurance, which in the long run will allow you to not only have increased aerobic capacity, but perform better at your goal. And then it's not a buzzword anymore because we know how important it is, but mobility. So whether you see that as flexibility or your own ability to move your body, your limbs in a variety of directions, mobility is incredibly important. And so for a lot of folks, you might stop the conversation here, right? So we're talking about cross training. You're thinking about your sport. You're thinking about your passion, your activity, and you're thinking about the physiological ways to improve that. And that is incredibly important. But a lot of what I do has to do with what goes on between your ears, and that's the psychological component of your sport. And I see cross training being a massive contributor to the mind game, to the mental game. And I find it incredibly fascinating what the role of the mind is in sports, let alone mountain sports. And so by embarking in a variety of different activities that are not your sport or not your activity, you're going to be having actually improved mental performance during your objective. Why? You may need to train to be out there longer. You may need to train to be performing in a different environment that you may someday find yourself in. Just like physical durability, physical mobility, physical endurance, physical flexibility, your mind can adapt and become those same things. You need to work to make your mind durable. You need to make your mind more mobile, and you need to be able to endure longer outings regardless of what your sport is. Another one is just motivation. If let's say you're a cyclist and your goal is to ride that trainer day in, day out through the winter months where the roads aren't that great to be out there on, that can be tough psychologically. So by bringing another activity into the mix, you're not only keeping your stoke levels elevated, but you're giving yourself a chance to get out of a routine, but at the same time working towards that long-term goal. And I think that just also tags on to avoiding burnout. So if you're just constantly just logging miles, pounding the pavement, pounding the trails, hammering on the trainer, it's really easy to get burned out. So the fun part about this conversation is, why does this matter in the mountains? And I think it's extra relevant here than it is in other playing fields. As it pertains to the physical world, my personal background is pretty broad in the climbing world. So think of mountaineering. Your goal is to get to the top of a peak. Your goal is to get to the top of a route or a climb, but there's so much more that goes into that. You may be dragging a sled for 7 miles that weighs 150 pounds that isn't part of the actual objective, but you still need to do that to get the job done. You may be walking on uneven terrain, on ice with crampons on, and you lose your balance with a 75-pound backpack on. All of these instances in the mountains require you to be extra strong and extra durable on a variety of planes, and you can't train for just that one sport in just that one direction. So cross training allows you to prepare for a variety of instances, a variety of environments, all of which are incredibly common to all different sorts of mountain sports and mountain athletes. So whether you're a trail runner, a skier, a climber, it's you need to be prepared to move in a variety of environments in a variety of directions, and cross training is really going to benefit you there. And to me, the most important one is going back to the psychological. The mind is such an important tool in the mountains and is so relevant and is so important. I truly believe cross training helps you be better prepared going into an objective in the hills. Because when you go out there, you don't often have an aid station or a medical tent right there around the corner. So you need to be very reliant on the power and strength and durability of your own mind. When I started doing longer things in the mountains, I wanted to cross train by doing other things that would make me psychologically fatigued, to prepare myself for some of the things I would be encountering up in the mountains while I'm climbing a variety of different routes. So cross training is super relevant to not only the physiological, but also the psychological game that you're going to find yourself playing in the mountains. So super base level here, how to cross train. Number one is you need to figure out what you actually want to be doing. You need to define your desired performance level. How seriously do you want to take this? What grade do you want to be climbing? How fast do you want to be running? How fast do you want to be riding? What sort of terrain do you want to be skiing? You need to define your desired level of performance, and you actually need to outline the exact goal or objective. So number one, you got to figure out what you want to be doing. And that, for me personally, can be tricky sometimes because I like to do a whole bunch of different things. But if you want to figure out what's actually going to be training versus your cross training, you need to figure out what that objective is. What's the goal? Next up, figure out your weaknesses, figure out your imbalances, figure out where you can spend a little extra time to make stronger. That's ultimately going to contribute to you being more successful in your goal or objective. Next, figure out how exactly cross training is going to help you reach that goal. Not only what are your weaknesses, but what can you add on to your current workload that's going to help you get to that goal faster and guarantee greater success. And the next one, which I think is pretty fascinating, especially in mountain sports, is assess the risk versus reward of your mountain cross training. Quick example for me, I enjoy doing all different things outside. Personally, if I don't mountain bike for a while, I let the bike sit in the garage for a month and I get back on it. Man, my the risk significantly exceeds the reward, because although it's so good to get on the bike and I work my engine and I work my balance and it's good for my mind, I enjoy being out in the trails on my bike, my riding ability just goes out the window and I'm destined to crash. And so regardless of what that training vehicle might be to help you cross train, make sure that the rewards outweigh the risks of actually embarking in that cross training method. And I'm not telling you not to mountain bike, just be smart about what you're doing and how it's ultimately contributing to your long-term goal, if indeed that goal is really important to you. A quick note that I think is kind of funny, or not funny, but interesting, is I go back to the running example where a lot of folks start out running and they go to cross training. For me, it was the opposite. I was really passionate about climbing the mountains and doing these really long pushes of alpine climbing routes. But I noticed something was missing. So I realized I had certain goals, and I realized I didn't know a few things about myself. I didn't know how long could I stay awake for one continuous period of time and keep moving and keep pushing and keep climbing. I didn't know what my body would do with fueling. How would it respond if I keep feeding it certain things for 30 to 60 to 100 hours straight? What's going to happen to my body when I put things into it, and is it going to perform well? Is it going to digest those fuels appropriately? And the other one is just the psychological nonstop continual forward progress, relentless forward progress. I'd never been out that long, and I didn't want the first time for me to be experiencing that continuous push to be on a committing peak or mountain, because commitment was just too high. And so I took up running, and I started tackling some local long trail races here near my home in Colorado, and then eventually graduated to some longer distances. And I really found that as a cross training tool to train my body to move for a long periods of time. My cardiovascular ability to keep moving again for hours on end. I wanted to train my body to be able to fuel every hour on the hour and keep being efficient and perform well. And I wanted to know what the sleep deprivation would be like. So it's a mental exercise in and of itself. So a neat anecdote for me, I think, is kind of finding different sports or different outings that can ultimately make you better at what you really want to be. And for me, I took a lot of those experiences being out there on the trails and applied them to some of my bigger goals in the climbing world. And I found it to be incredibly effective. And a lot of that had to do with the mental game. So what else about cross training? For me, again, when I talked to the folks at Gnarly Nutrition, they said, Jay, you'd be a good person to talk about this because you're kind of an all-arounder. And that's pretty true. I grew up playing football and baseball, and I played football all the way through college. And so I ended up, being a larger human. I'm not that tall. I'm 5'10", but I was 260 pounds. And then all of a sudden I got excited to go climbing and skiing and running. And that body type doesn't really contribute super well to those sports, but I really enjoy them. And so I find that continuing to balance a lot of different sports allows my body to be able to perform and execute the things I want to do at an okay level. But when it comes to cross training, this comes back to that goal. Do you find yourself as that utility person, the all-arounder? Or do you have a goal set in mind that you are working towards? Therefore, you need to identify other things to complement it, there being the cross training. So figure out what you want to do. If you really want to be an all-arounder, that's awesome, because I'm an all-arounder most of the time. But a few times a year, I pick a goal and I work towards it, and that helps me define what is my primary activity and what are the components that I can implement as cross-training tools. And again, that kind of is also the concept of commitment. How much do I want to commit to this goal? Do I really want to climb this grade? Or once the snow falls, am I going to be really excited to go skiing? So you really have to figure out what level your commitment is to achieving that goal or improving in that desired sport before you can really identify what you need to do to combat those weaknesses and balance your training out to make you better at that sport, that goal. For me personally, cross training is great because it complements my lifestyle. A lot of what I like to do is roam with the seasons, and a lot of that has to do with my profession. So working to take people out and play outside has its pros and cons as it pertains to training for a sport. In the summertime, people are really excited to go rock climbing. In the wintertime, they're really excited to go ice climbing and skiing. And that is phenomenal for integrated organic cross training, because my body is constantly confused as to what it's trying to do. But at the same time, I have to be really dedicated and really committed if I want to focus on one of those disciplines throughout the entire year. And so that poses its own set of challenges. But for me, I do enjoy the kind of natural sway of body movement and natural change of activities, because I do think they all complement each other, therefore making me more durable in the long run. The other one is opportunity. So I did see an early comment about the Beat Monday project. My Beat Monday project that I have with my co-founder, Mike Chambers, is about making the most out of your weekends. And a lot of these weekend adventures are last minute outdoor pursuits, and they involve a variety of human powered methods of travel. And very often we haven't been training for that specific human powered method of travel for a while. So being well-rounded, continuing to cross-train allows you to say yes to a variety of opportunities and be able to go out on an adventure. Some people use the word off the couch. I don't really fully believe in off the couch if you're really cross-training regularly, but it allows you to be confident in your decision to jump at an opportunity and go out there and have a good time. And lastly, just goal setting. Figure out what you actually really want to do out there, what you're really passionate about, whether it's your goals or your sport or a certain objective out there in the mountains. And that will really help you figure out what you need to do to cross train. But be honest with yourself, figure out where you need to spend time to improve, figure out where your imbalances are, and figure out, how cross training can make that goal a reality for you. And that pretty much wraps up my rapid fire spiel about cross training. Shannon, any comments from folks out there?
Hold on, I think we've got a question, and sometimes people add questions, at the very end. So feel free to throw some in. We've got plenty of time. Can you address? I second this, Dan. Actually, can you address a few considerations of or for aging athletes?
Oh boy, I wish you didn't bring that one up. It's funny when I remember I've been coaching and training folks since I was in high school, and when you're a teenager in your early 20s, you definitely don't have a whole lot of empathy for older athletes. You're kind of like, you're really pushing folks, and you're really I feel like you just kind of lack empathy until you're there. And so I'm 37 now, and I'm still considered very young by a lot of folks, but I remember hitting in my late 20s and had a few nagging injuries that made me be much more empathetic to other folks dealing with injuries. And I think that's a continuing process of learning for me and everybody. And so for aging athletes, it's certainly just learning to treat yourself better in areas that you can control. So diet and sleep, I think, go a long way there. The next one is recovery time. And so recovery time is just, there's not a whole lot of ways about it without, once you've got your sleep on point, once you have your diet and nutrition on point, just really being mindful of what it really takes to recover before you go out there and have another big day. And that may influence how you structure your training. You may need to build in an extra training day, or you're going to need to structure things differently to accommodate for longer recovery time. Those are the big, as a 37-year-old, I can't speak much past that, because I found that I end up learning the hard way, and I really have a greater understanding once I've lived through it myself. But for aging athletes, figure out what you can control. And again, those big ones are going to be your diet and your sleep, and then factor in more recovery. And the last thing I would say is just don't be hard on yourself. There's so many things out there now that allow us to track metrics. We've got Training Peaks and Strava and all sorts of fancy watches that allow us to train more effectively. But if you've been in this game a long time, let's say you've been running or training or climbing or cycling for over a decade, your times are going to increase, and then eventually they're not going to increase anymore. And so just be kind to yourself and continue to train and find things that you're excited to do, but just be open to the reality that you're not always going to be the fastest, strongest person you've always been. So
Awesome. We had another question in the chat. So if you guys have questions and can put them in the Q&A, that'd be great. It just helps kind of make sure that we address everything. So Lee is wondering what mountaineering project you are teeing up in 2021.
Oh boy. Well, I was supposed to go to Peru in June of 2020, and that didn't happen. And so I'm toying with the idea of Alaska or Peru in 2021, but still objectives are to be determined.
Yeah, understand that. Okay, we've got a few more that came in. So Ryland's asking if you have any advice or strategies for learning about your weaknesses, especially unknown weaknesses. Knowing about what you don't know about is quite difficult at times.
Yeah, Ryland, that's a really good question. I know for me, I've found my biggest imbalances came out in the endurance side of training. And so whether that be running or cycling, higher volume for me personally have exposed weaknesses through kind of low level micro injuries. And unfortunately, the goal is to catch them quickly and deal with them as fast as you can and not let them become a persistent thing. So identify, when a pain arises, if you've been running, 100-mile weeks, or for some people 20-mile weeks, figure out what the root of that pain is, and don't always just push through it. There's certain times in training where you definitely do need to, for lack of a better term, kind of push through the pain. But for higher volume training, it's a time to be really mindful of what might be causing that. Is it your stride? Is it muscle imbalances? The great thing about cross training is it's great to know a lot of anatomy and physiology, but there's a lot of resources out there today, like YouTube and reading, that sure, you're not going to end up being an exercise physiologist or a doctor overnight, but it can give you some clues as to what might be going on. And so I would say there's a lot of literature and a lot of reading out there that can show you what the common imbalances might be for your sport. If you're a climber, it's often you're lacking pushing muscles. If you're a runner, there's often variety of lateral strengthening muscle groups that cause injuries. So the literature's out there for different types of sports. If you're already, neck deep in training, that's fantastic, but listen to your body. And if you start to see pain or some injuries, jump right on it and figure out what might be the likely cause of those pain or injuries.
All right. Forrest is wondering how you can use cross training to help continue to progress in your sport, even when your movers for your primary sport are injured.
Oh boy. All right, Forrest, let's see here. I think I'm hearing what you're saying. I got into I got into trail running, because I wanted to train for bigger alpine objectives, but I actually got into it a little bit before that when I injured my arm. So I tore my biceps in 2010 bouldering, and I just could not use my arm for about 2 months. And so I continued to figure out what muscles I needed to continue to grow as a climber. But I also embarked in other sports like hiking and trail running that allowed me to grow other parts of my body so I could be a stronger athlete once I was fully healed and able to train at full capacity. I hope that answers Forrest's question. I think I understood it.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree as well. I mean, that Forrest, if he didn't get what you were get at what you were asking, go ahead and leave another question or a follow-up. So let me double check and make sure we don't have anything in the chat box. If that looks to be it for right now, Jason.
Fantastic, Jenna. Well, thank you everybody for chiming in and listening to me talk about cross training. like I said before, it's something I really enjoy doing for a variety of reasons. It complements my lifestyle, my profession, and I just like doing a whole lot of different things. And so thanks for listening to me for a short while. I did put my Instagram handle out here on this final page. This is probably the best way to get at me for a quick chat or a quick message. So if you have any questions about cross training or training or guiding, you know where to find me. And so I'm pretty good at getting back to messages. If I don't respond to you within a couple of days, ping me back. It's not because I'm ignoring you. So just reach out. I'm happy to talk training, happy to talk climbing, happy to talk mountains. Just glad to connect with you all tonight. So thanks for listening.
Awesome. We've got Lee saying thank you. And that was a great talk. Thanks so much, Jason. Much appreciated.
Fantastic, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Okay,
Happy
happy
holidays.
holidays, everybody.